Fall is here, and it's time for football and time for entertainment, which means it's time for you to check out Underdog, the place for fantasy picks and entertainment. You need your enjoyment to be easy, and that's why Underdog is a perfect place to go for pick'em entries entering fantasy contests. I'll be looking at the higher of Kirk Cousins, passing yards, and touchdown projections all year long. With Underdog, you have a smooth process that leads to easy and fast play. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code LEAK, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LEAK, to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Back Your Blue highlights special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Join a Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Matalon and host Tug Coward to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. Now it's time to back your blue on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Coward, along with Daniel Matalon. He is the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. What's up, man? How are you?
Good, doing good.
Good to have you today. And also our guest, Michael Whitlock. He is, I can tell you there's a designation behind your name, MCBA. I have no idea what that means. What does that mean, Michael?
That's just an industry term for Master Certified Bail Agent.
Wow, that sounds intense. Daniel, do you know what that means? Because I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I do. And I don't have that.
Oh, my. Well, now it's a contest in here.
Well, that's issued by our national association for professional bondsmen in the United States that I'm a member of.
Okay, right on. And Michael is the executive vice president of the bail division of the American Surety Company. You have to explain what that is, because when I hear American Surety Company, I don't know what that means.
Well, surety is probably the word you're keying on, and surety is a financial guarantee.
Okay.
So in the bail bond business, a bail bond is really a financial guarantee of appearance in lieu of posting full cash.
Okay, there you go. And Daniel, I feel like you probably know about that.
Yes, I do.
You've probably been dealing with that a little bit.
A long time, yeah.
So what is it that makes that doable, workable? You know what I mean? Like,
well, so there's two components. Georgia's predominantly a professional state, which is us riding on cash, and then there is corporate surety in some counties in the state of Georgia, which is where Mike comes into play. And Mike, I was the first corporate surety person that I kind of latched onto and formed a relationship with and connected with, and so we've been friends for a while, and yeah.
Mike's been in the bail industry since 1981, joined American Surety Company in 1986, and over the decades has developed extensive expertise in underwriting, forfeiture management, loss mitigation, agency auditing, marketing, agent recruiting, legislative advocacy, and the protection of the constitutional right to bail. That sounds like a lot.
Well, when you work at anything for a long time, you end up getting your toes in a lot of different areas, and it's just a matter of taking the business where it takes you. And just early on, when I came out of high school, I got in the bail bond business. No one ever goes to school, as Daniel can attest, to get into the bail bond business. There's no classes that you take. It's usually back into it. And my dad had been in the bail bond business since the 60s. And so I ended up working for a retail office, actually 3-4 of them in Dallas area, just out of high school. And then from there, keeping a long story short, my dad ended up buying an insurance company with his partner, and I went to work for them. And so from there, I started getting into underwriting and dealing. A claim in our claim management is really a bond forfeiture. So when someone doesn't show up to court, the court will forfeit the bond, and then the bondsman, the bail agent, the bonding company, what have you, has a time certain to produce the defendant in order to avoid paying the loss.
Otherwise, you got to go get Dog Bounty Hunter.
Right, which we've had on the show. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to get him involved, which you don't want to do.
Yeah, right.
If you don't have to.
That's true. I'm sorry, didn't mean to talk over you. Really, when someone fails to appear again, as Daniel can attest, it doesn't automatically mean you have to sign it to recovery agent. I mean, usually it's a phone call. Hey, you missed your court date. Oh, I didn't know my court date was today, or I didn't have a ride, or my attorney said I wasn't supposed to be there. So a lot of it is just, for a bonding company standpoint, is just managing that situation. Is this person taking flight, meaning they've left the area with the intent of not going to court, or did they just screw up? And, the fact that they were arrested to begin with says there's a little bit of a responsibility issue there.
Could
so
be.
Not showing up to court.
Not that surprising.
Not surprising in many cases. So it's just about getting them back on the calendar, getting the warrant quashed, and getting them back on their way again. But you try to resolve that warrant quickly. So if they're out riding around or whatever and get stopped for speeding or something, they're not back in jail on that warrant for failure to appear. So that's just another thing that the bonding company does in terms of just managing that person's case. Everybody that fails to appear is not automatically a fugitive, where they're leaving the state and leaving the jurisdiction.
So what percentage is, if you had to break it down, like what percentage is the person they just messed up, or is it, and the other side is they took off and you're going to have to go get?
Well, that literally goes to each individual bonding company about how risk averse they are and how well they're managing their clients to make sure that they do have their court dates and they understand where they need to go. And because another thing that the bonding companies do is they help defendants and clients, if you will, navigate the court system. This is where you need to be. This is the time you need to be there early. Make sure you're in touch with your attorney, things of that nature. So I would say a 10% failure to appear rate is not unusual, and sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. But again, a failure to appear can be, I just forgot my court date, to I had never intended to go to court. So there's a range. So the key statistic is how many are you having to pay at the end? And that is a less than 1% ultimately, that because the bonding company really has to produce the defendant in order to avoid loss. You cannot take very many losses in the bail bond business and really stay in business, because you're paying 10 times the amount that you collected on the bond. And that's the gross amount, because out of that gross amount, you're paying everybody, your overhead and your employees and all that stuff. So as with anything in any small business, if you make 20% off of what you're collecting, you're doing pretty good. So it's a matter of how well you manage your business. Is like anything, it determines how long you're in business.
So Daniel, I'm pointing the question to you then. So you're on the ground, your boots on the ground. Like, yep. in your estimation, in your experience, how often is it that somebody's like, I'm out of here, or is it somebody that's just a knucklehead and just has messed up?
Well, I mean, it happens all the time, and it goes back to the volume, right? So how much volume? And look, I've paid off. I mean, I've written a check for 6 figures on a bond payoff.
That sounds terrible.
Actually, here in Cobb County,
Oh my heavens!
Before, but our loss ratio is extremely low, and you hear these statistics are thrown out around the country of like, well, is this really true? Are you really actually making these people go to court? And I mean, the answer is yes, right? And it depends on the system that you've set up, and because of the high volume that we have, we put a ton of work. All of our stuff's in-house, where most bail bonding companies will outsource this. We have
like the actual money.
Well, they'll outsource the actually finding these people or resolving the case, and that's evolved too. Like, you're not necessarily, back in the day, you had a lot less restriction. Now with the climate of law enforcement and the temperature of what's going on, you're kind of wanting to more administratively handle these cases versus being in the field.
With Dog the Bounty Hunter.
With Dog the Bounty Hunter, right.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of liability that goes with sending someone out to apprehend an individual, because where they have to go sometimes to apprehend an individual, they're knocking on doors. Sometimes they're going in to these properties, and it's all kind of a live action situation. And as the owner of the bonding company, they have to make sure that the individual that they're hiring or the team that they're hiring is reputable, and they have make good decisions in deciding when to go in and when not to go in. because it can be a dangerous situation, but also, people can get hurt just like in any fugitive recovery situation. So
I read that Michael, as we talked to Michael Whitlock, he is the executive vice president of Bail Division, which is the American Surety Company. 125,000 air miles annually going out and representing the company, and you've testified in support of surety bail before various state and legislative committees. Authored, that's a tough word to say, goodness gracious, authored a bunch of op-eds, and you've been doing that since 1996. And there's even a blog that's titled "Where in the World is Mike Whitlock?" Kind of like Carmen Sandiego.
yes, that is. I stole it from Carmen, and fortunately she's not around to sue me on that.
Thank goodness.
Well, when you've been in the same business for so long, you had to find other ways, not necessarily to amuse yourself, but to continue to keep the job interesting and the profession interesting. And the bail industry is really a rather smaller industry compared to other lines of insurance and other types of surety being written. So it seems to be more on a personal level based on relationships. And I know people all over the country, which has been one of the nice things about traveling all over the country. We have bail agents that we work with all over the country. Our company's affiliated with the American Bail Coalition, which is our insurance association, which they do advocacy for bail bonds and in the bail industry to make sure that no adverse legislation passes that impacts our industry, but also impacts the constitutional right to be released on bail, because that is your constitutional right. And when we're out there posting bail, like I always like to say, is that if the bonding company doesn't do their job when they by getting the defendant to court, that the whole system comes to a halt. The prosecutor can't prosecute, the defense attorney can't defend their client, the judge has set aside court time for this case, and then the victim's looking to have their day in court also to see justice done. So without the defendant present, that doesn't happen. So it's critical that the bonding company makes sure that their defendant, their client, gets to court. And so I like talking about that. I like talking about what the bail industry is. We're one of the few private sector components of the criminal justice system, and I think we just have a duty to make sure that we do it right, and that also say that if you're innocent until proven guilty, and you have a right to be free from jail and free from custody pending trial. While you can prepare for your case, you can get out and go back to work, feed your family, do all the things that you need to be doing to be a good citizen, and then and leave because there's always more people being arrested so you have to kind of keep room in the jail, if you will, for other people coming through. So the bonding companies, they kind of facilitate the release by working with third-party co-signers, moms and dads. They're coming in there to say, hey, I'm willing to stand good for my son. Now, sometimes you say, no, I'm not going to, he's nothing but trouble. I keep getting him out. He's staying in this time. And that's beyond our control, and that's beyond the bondsman's control. But having that third party come in to say, yeah, I'll vouch for this individual, and I'll sign your paperwork, and I'll stand good for the bond if they don't show up to court. That's really critical, and that's the big distinction between being released on your own recognizance with no third parties guaranteeing your appearance versus being released on a bail agent to a bonding company. Because if you don't show up, the bonding companies, as I said before, really has a financial incentive, if you will, to produce the defendant to court.
When we come back here on Extra 106.3 and Back Your Blue, talk about in your 43 years in the bail industry, as we talk to Michael Whitlock, the Executive Vice President of Bail Division, the American Surety Company. Talk about some of the biggest changes you've seen in the bail industry. And Daniel, I'm sure you'll have some great input on that when we continue. Next on Extra 106.3 and Back Your Blue.
Fall is here, and it's time for football and time for entertainment, which means it's time for you to check out Underdog, the place for fantasy picks and entertainment. You need your enjoyment to be easy, and that's why Underdog is a perfect place to go for pick'em entries entering fantasy contests. I'll be looking at the higher of Kirk Cousins, passing yards, and touchdown projections all year long. With Underdog, you have a smooth process that leads to easy and fast play. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code LEAK, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first Pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code LEAK, to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Hi, this is Brad Akins. By now you've heard about the tragedy at Appalachia High School. While the outpouring of support has been incredible, the needs of those affected by this event are overwhelming, and we need your help. The Bear Community Crisis Fund is leading the efforts to collect, manage, and distribute resources for the community's recovery initiatives. Join me and let's make a difference in the lives of those affected by the tragedy at Appalachia High School. Your donation, no matter the size, will help support those families in need. Please donate today at bearcommunityfoundation.org.
Extra 106.3 and a second chance bail bonds are here to back your blue. Now back to the show on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue. My name is Tug, along with Daniel Madelon. He is the CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. Our guest today is Michael Whitlock. He is the executive vice president of the bail division at the American Surety Company. He talked about a bunch of the needs in the first segment of the bail industry and why it's so important in the constitutional rights. What are some of the changes that you've seen, some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the industry, Michael?
Well, in the industry, but also just in criminal justice and how it's applied. In 1981-82, when I was really at the bottom rung, I was just a runner for a couple of bonding companies there. And Daniel, you may remember this too, but we used to write a lot of bond on traffic tickets. So if you were arrested for DWI, there was a bond set that you had to post, but there was also Class C misdemeanors for failure to maintain a single lane and no insurance and all these things, and you'd be arrested for driving while license suspended, for instance, and you'd have to post bond. So you'd be taken into custody. You'd sit there for several hours in the Dallas County Jail. It would take you 12 to 13 hours to be released, but you would go through this process, and you would have to call mom and dad or someone to come get you out and go down and post the bonds, and you're seeing that in those types of charges, like driving on a suspended license, which may not be a result of a DWI, but might be a result of just too many traffic tickets. But you don't really, people are not getting that experience anymore. It's one you don't want to have to go through, but if you run afoul of the law and you're taken into custody and you have to go through the trouble of the humiliating part of calling your mom and dad, you got to come get me out, and they got to go down and do all this paperwork. That kind of leaves an imprint on your brain and your experience to think, well, maybe I won't do that again. Compare that to today, where I know I'm based out of Indianapolis, and suspended licenses, people driving around the city on suspended license is really an epidemic in Indianapolis. I don't know if it is here, Daniel.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't even take you to jail anymore. I mean, they don't even arrest you. They just say, oh, well, get that taken care of and keep driving down the road.
Do you get a ticket or anything?
Maybe some kind of a citation, but it's the worst. If you ask me what's the one bond you don't want to write, it's suspended license. Yeah. It's the number one most paid off bond, because what happens is by the time the license is suspended, there's all these hurdles, and they're mostly financial hurdles, like Mike said, speeding tickets, things of that nature. So the problem's already built up that if a person does not have the financial means, it's not getting reinstated. It's just not going to happen. No way, no how. So therefore, the problem just compounds. They get back in the car, they drive again, and it's just like this revolving door. So we literally, unless you're going to fully collateralize it, we don't even like to do them anymore, because we have the data over the last 18 years that shows you how many bond payoffs happen as a result of suspended license. So when the reform came in, and the huge bail reform conversation's been happening all around the country for the last 10 years, but we're like, take it.
Yeah, specifically that one.
Have it, because who's going to have the problem now is going to be the municipalities, because they're not going to be able to get the money on the on these fines. Where before they had an avenue with us, they could get it through the sureties.
Well, one of the extended concerns of not having a valid license is you typically don't have insurance. So if you're driving around with no license and you're also uninsured, so now you're an uninsured motorist, so if you get into an accident, there's a problem there. So what we've seen really is just the evolution over really a few decades. I kind of look at it as a pendulum. It used to be the pendulum was far to the right, where 3 strikes you're out and everybody's going to prison. Marijuana, you arrest and you're going to do 5 years in prison for possession of marijuana. Over the last few years, probably 9 years, we've really swung to the left, which is, people shouldn't have to pay to get out of jail. People shouldn't have to sit in jail or go to prison or be on probation or parole and all these things. Or you can now
just no consequences.
You
or
can
anything.
now
I
be
love it.
served 10 years in home detention with a monitor now. I mean, it's just kind of crazy how it's gotten. And what we've seen really, and again, Daniel might be able to attest to this, is that because cases are taking so long to be prosecuted, in many cases up to 2 years, that the individual that's charged with theft or DWI or aggravated assault, domestic, whatever, we're finding that they're committing additional crimes even before they've gone to trial on the first crime. Right. So you're having repeat offenders that have not even been prosecuted on the first charge, which is really compounding the problem, which is really because of these policies and with the being released with no collateral requirement whatsoever, no bond requirement, cases taking longer, a lot of public defenders. I mean, public defenders are now the biggest law firms in most cities now, is just how many public defenders that the city has. And so that's a problem. What we're seeing now is that states are starting to consider expanding preventative detention. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah, that sounds extensive.
Yeah. Well, what that means is in most states, you can only be detained without bail until through trial as if you're charged with a capital murder offense or treason. And now, because there's you have so many people out there committing multiple crimes again before they even go to trial in the first case, they're saying we need to do something about these repeat offenders. So what we're going to do is we want to amend our state constitution, because it requires a constitutional amendment, to say the judge should have the authority now to say which defendants can get bail and which cannot get bail. And we've been opposed to that to the extent that we don't want, I say as an industry, we don't want that to be too broad, where you just come up and maybe you get a wink and a nod from the prosecutor saying, yeah, this person's really dangerous, Your Honor, and then, okay, no bail, you stay in jail. As opposed to, this is a serious rape offense, or this is a kidnapping, or a serial armed robber, or whatever, that this person's demonstrated to be a threat to the community. This is a person that we want to keep in jail. So we're just trying to make sure that states like Indiana has something pending, Connecticut, Texas was working on this as well, Ohio. Several states were working on this to amend their state constitutions. In Indiana, it's been in our Constitution since it was originated in, I think, 1860. So now, almost 200 years later, they say this is the time we need to amend the language in our Constitution. It's been around for almost 2 centuries. Why? Well, because the policies that have been put in place to fix the bail system has really only caused this problem. And so that's, again, as an industry, we're trying to bring common sense policies back to say if you commit a crime, you need to be charged and put in jail, bail required, and then prosecuted. And if you do all those things, it's amazing what impact you can have on the crime in your communities. But for whatever reason, people feel like we're just being too difficult or too hard on people that are committing crimes in our communities.
I think if you're committing crimes, it probably should be a little difficult.
Well, it should be difficult.
This is just Joe Citizen here.
Yeah. I mean, I just liken it to your kids, as my daughter would constantly take ketchup packs up to her bedroom all the time, and I say, don't do that anymore, or else. It's really just kind of like dealing with kids. If you commit a crime, this is what happens. You're arrested, charged, and you have to go to trial, and you have to go to all these inconveniences about paying for an attorney and posting bail and getting your parents and your family members and so involved with your mess that you've created for yourself. And you shouldn't make that experience as easy as possible.
Right.
We'll give you a free attorney.
Yeah.
You won't have to post bail. And if you don't go to court, well, we're not really going to look for you, but don't screw up because we might catch you with an
We
outstanding
might
warrant.
accidentally get you.
Yeah, we might accidentally get you. So, and it's not fair to law enforcement to have all these people out there driving around with outstanding warrants, because some people know they have an outstanding warrant and they don't want to go to jail. And they know if they've been pulled over that they might pick up on the warrant, and that could create
A dangerous situation.
a dangerous
right?
situation for law enforcement.
Yeah, it seems crazy, Daniel. I'm sure you're dealing with this every day.
It's unfortunate that we've been, I guess, targeted in some aspects. But look, I mean, there's, everything needs a cleanup, right? So I'm not saying that there's not cleanup that could be done, but it seems like we can't get to the middle of all this, and it's either way over to the left or way to the right.
Isn't that the way it always is, though? Is everything is
yeah.
overcorrect, and we can never find the happy medium?
And we've done a great job here in Georgia, right? That's the beauty of Mike. Mike's been, I want to thank Mike publicly for being such a great advocate to the bail industry, and he travels all over the place, and he kind of keeps us up to speed in things that you just, you don't have, there's not enough time in the day, as we all know. So Mike does a great job of circulating this knowledge to everybody, which is important for an industry that is really small and is shrinking. Truth be known, compared to where it was 10 years ago, and then 10 years before that. So yeah, but it's a challenge every day.
One of the things in the bail reform movement over the last 7 years that I really think was necessary was that a couple of lawsuits came up out of Texas in particular, where they were finding people that were sitting in jail on low bonds that were unable to post bail, and many times they were in jail longer than if they would have been convicted of the charge.
Wow.
Because they just kind of got lost in the system. I think maybe some jails were not keeping track of who was in custody and why they were sitting there, and no one was really listening to, hey, I'm just in here on a minor theft charge. I've been in here for 4 weeks on a $200 bond, and I can't post bond. So the due process was not really being adhered to. So I think what came out of that was that if you've been in custody for 72 hours, in most cases they're bringing you back before the judge to give you a bond hearing to review your case to determine whether or not you can be released on your own recognizance, or maybe your bond should be lowered to make it easier for you to post bail, because and then let you get out and get on your way. So I think that's the one thing that I can think of during the whole last 7 or 8 years that came out that was probably a good thing.
There you go, Daniel. I mean, I want to go back just briefly, just because, again, being a layman, I have no idea about this stuff. I'm learning as we do the show, Daniel.
Yeah.
But for everyday folks that are listening right now that have no connection to being arrested, they have no connection to their family being arrested, they just have no comprehension because they've never dealt with it before. When they hear y'all talk about people that are driving on a suspended license and then they get in trouble, get arrested, and then they just don't get arrested, I think that's the point, is don't get arrested, and then they go out and do it again, and then nothing happens, and they go out and do it again, and nothing happens.
Sure.
That seems absurd to most people, I believe.
Well, even simplify it like this: would you want to be hit by an uninsured motorist?
No, no.
Because just think about think about your headache that you're going to have on the back end of that.
Which is the point. The reason I'm bringing it up.
Right, and that's just something very simple. I mean, that's like as easy as it comes, And
that's like
you don't want to promote that. You don't want to promote people to be getting into that type of lifestyle of operating motor vehicles without insurance. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. I mean, it's either if you got it, then you drive. If you don't have it, you don't.
Same with the
drive.
license thing.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I can't fly an airplane. You know why? Well, I have a license. That's
good to know.
I mean, it seems
I'm
like
check the cockpit next time I got in an airplane. Make sure you're not in there.
But it's the biggest issue. It's the driver's licenses are the biggest issue. I mean, it's
same reason I don't drive an 18-wheeler. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things I don't do because I have a license to do it.
Yeah, driver's license and theft is a big issue, and I belong in a few different men's groups, and more so in the last 6 or 7 years. Anytime before, I always flew under the radar. They always curious about bail, but now they started asking me about, because bail, because their stores are being broken into, or they're dealing with theft, or their vehicles are being broken into. California is well known in the San Francisco area for all the theft and auto break-ins, and
as long as you don't steal up to $1,000, you're all good.
Yeah, you can steal up to $1,000 out there and walk out the door, and the most they could do is give you a citation. But
why would you get a job if you can make $1,000 a week stealing? Why would you go get a job? And there's no repercussions.
even worse in California, you can actually steal $1,000 from this store, walk to the next store, and sell $1,000 from that store. You can do that multiple times during the course of a day.
I gotta go get a new
So
job.
yeah, so I think we're starting. That's why you're starting to see more people that normally don't even think about bail asking you about it.
Sure.
Because they're now they're getting involved with it because they've had family or friends that have dealt with crime or had stuff stolen or what have you, and it's become an issue. And not to mention, it's on the news every single day. Get rid of cash, in cashless bail, that type of stuff, or cash bail. Chicago, state of Illinois went to no bail. They've never been a state that even took bail bonds, whether it be professional or corporate surety bail, which is what we do. They've always done cash to the court, and they even got rid of all cash. So now we're going to detain you, or we're going to let you go without bail. And their crime is, which, again, common sense. If you don't have any way to get people to go to court or to ensure that they go to court, then generally they're not going to go to court. And then it just becomes a problem that's insurmountable because there's so many outstanding warrants on the book. I don't know what the outstanding warrants are in the counties around Atlanta, but you'd probably be surprised about how many outstanding warrants.
I'm going to say the guy to my left, I bet he'd have an idea.
Well, I don't have the exact number, but a lot of people
have a good idea.
I mean, we have people all the time that end up in Illinois because it's a safe state for them to go to. So they commit the crimes here in Atlanta, they fail to appear, they know they're wanted, they go to Illinois. We physically cannot go into the state of Illinois. If we do, then it's felony kidnapping for us when we've done nothing wrong. But you have these places, Kentucky's another place. I mean, some of these states where you cannot physically go in there, and so they know to go there. It's a network, believe it or not. There is a network of people that know this stuff, and it helps them move a certain type of way. And that's not the majority, right? But that is, if it's a $200,000 bond that you wrote, well, that's a $200,000 problem. If he's in Illinois, now granted, there are ways to achieve success with that problem, but it's a nightmare. I mean, literally a nightmare. And that's the culture they're breeding in places like Chicago.
So they're going to have their problems, and what we're just trying to do is educate that the bail. You shouldn't be afraid of bail. We don't control the keys to the jail. It's just like someone walking in trying to get a loan. I need to get a loan from. Okay, well, let's underwrite. We have to underwrite it. Okay, how long have you been in custody? What type of charges do you have? Have you ever been arrested before, or convicted before? Do you have a job? Are you buying or renting? Who's willing to step up and co-sign your bond? You got your parents, your employers. Who's standing good for you? You may have been in jail multiple times and burned all your bridges. And moms and grandmas and family just said, look, I'm just not going to deal with it anymore. And so I'm sorry, I'm not going to come and save you this time. So when they talk about people sitting in jail that can't afford bail, a lot of times it's that individual that has been in jail so many times that no one is willing to come and stand good for them.
Right.
Because they've been burned.
Because they've been burned, or they're just a constant trouble in their own lives, in their own world, and they just don't want to provide assistance to that individual. Or if they're sitting in jail that can't afford bail, it's not always the bail. They may have another hold for another county or jurisdiction, or they may be serving county time on a charge, but they have a bail on a new charge. So anytime someone says people are sitting in jail that can't afford bail, you have to look in the numbers and look at the individual cases.
It's an individualized process for sure. And it's just like anything.
But when it hits the news networks, that's probably never discussed.
We lose every time.
Most times because it's just a narrative. It's who gets to the narrative first and sets the narrative, and now you're fighting against the narrative. And technically, we really don't even post cash bail. They say in cash bail. We're really not cash. We don't post cash. Some agents might write on a ratio of cash that's held on deposit with the court, or they pay a surety company to provide effective reinsurance on the bonds that they're writing. So we provide a product, an insurance product, or surety product rather, and that if someone doesn't show up to court, ultimately, if it has to be paid, the bonding is going to come pay it, and if the bonding company can't pay it, then the surety company steps in and pays it on behalf of the bonding company. Yep. So there's a guaranteed payment there. So it's just. I don't know why they chose the bail bond industry to pick on. I mean, really, we like to think that we're helping an individual by being able to obtain release.
We're better resource for these people. Like, put the bail bond aside, right? Like, so then you're on bond for, let's say, 6 months, a year, 2 years. The resources that we give these people, law enforcement's, overworked, underpaid,
for sure.
and understaffed, right?
We know
officers
in here all the time talking
so
about
they can't manage this caseload regardless, right? So you have us, now we step into the fold, and we're actually helping these people at no cost to anybody. So it's like, I don't even understand the argument. There is no argument. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
But it sounds good.
But it sounds good, and in some places in the country it works, right? You have a buy-in in that type of mentality and whatever, but it's just wild because it's like it's turned into this whole like production over the last 5 years, really like heavily, where it's like, what?
Yeah, we're not the cause of your pain. We're here to help you out, because when someone's released on bond, I may be repeating myself, but the victim's going to know that person's been released and is going to have a secured appearance to make sure they did go to court. Because if they're released on bond or without bond, and it's a domestic case, for instance, and now they're running around, no one's looking for this individual. Now the victim is sitting there wondering if they're going to come knocking on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning to cause more problems. So we're just an integral part of the criminal justice system, and if you just let us do our job and assist those individuals that are looking to be released from custody. But again, I can't stress this enough. If we get a call from someone in jail, or a bonding company does, and we say, who's going to come and help you out? If they say, I don't have anybody and I don't have any collateral, it's going to be very difficult for the bonding company to say, yeah, I can help you out. Simply because you have no ties to the community, you have no third parties that's willing in your world that's going to help you out. That's a telltale sign that you're a flight risk. And so we're just not bonding people out just because we like to bond people out of jail. We have to. There's an underwriting process that we go through to determine whether or not we feel like we can get this person back to court.
And we've helped people so many times, law enforcement agencies, from U.S. Marshals to local. Not even my bond. I've made zero, not even 10 cents, and we'll stick through the duration of the case to help locate these people or help them on cases that literally have nothing to do with us. But it's the right thing to do. It's public safety, accountability, all those things that we subscribe to. So you're not going to make the argument on my end as far as who we are as a company. Now, you could make it in some other instances and stuff like that, but I mean, I've got all the facts.
You get all the receipts.
The receipts.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're coming to a break or not, but one of the things that's been in the news the last, at least down here for the last several months, is a charitable bail, posting bonds through a charitable bail organization, or a charitable bail organization stepping up and posting bonds.
Yeah, Senate Bill SB 63.
So let's talk let's talk about that again on the other side of the break, because it'll be good to bring it up again. And I want to ask you about private sector agencies, because you brought that up, being the only private sector part of the criminal justice system. I'm fascinated by that, too. I want to ask you about that as we continue on Back Your Blue with Michael Whitlock of the American Surety Company. And, of course, Daniel Madelon. He is the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart. This is Extra 1063.
Hi, this is Brad Akins. By now you've heard about the tragedy at Appalachia High School. While the outpouring of support has been incredible, the needs of those affected by this event are overwhelming, and we need your help. The Bear Community Crisis Fund is leading the efforts to collect, manage, and distribute resources for the community's recovery initiatives. Join me and let's make a difference in the lives of those affected by the tragedy at Appalachia High School. Your donation, no matter the size, will help support those families in need. Please donate today at bearcommunityfoundation.org.
My friends, well, you might say they're a little different. We know how to have a good time, sure, but together, what we get is beyond just that. Los Linderos is the tequila that fits, that works for those times we have. The times that take fun and friendship and go beyond. Give it a try. Los Linderos Tequila. I keep an eye out for that sculpted bottle. It's as beautiful on the outside as on the inside. Kinda like my friends. Los Linderos Tequila. When it's time to go beyond.
This is Back Your Blue, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds, live on Extra 106.3 FM and streaming for free anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Madelon and our guest, Michael Whitlock, the Executive Vice President of the Bail Division for American Surety Company. Charitable bail. I've never even heard of that. What is that?
Well, charitable bail funds are really kind of came on this. They've been around for a long time actually, but they really became known nationally because of the Minnesota Freedom Fund that was brought up during the George Floyd riots up in Minnesota, and there was an outfit there that says we'll post bond on people that are arrested for protesting. So they had a lot of media and a lot of celebrities saying, hey, give money to this fund if you want to help out people that are
celebrities. They always get it right.
Well, and they have millions of followers. They generated very quickly about $35 million in the fund to post bonds on these individuals that ultimately never required bail because the judge didn't set bail. They just let them go. So they didn't say they were stuck with all this money, but
stuck with all this money. I've never heard it said quite like that before.
It's millions of dollars.
No, I know.
Millions of dollars. And there's been a couple of, and I won't mention their name, but there's been a couple of outfits that have been working in multiple states. And as an industry, what we've always had an issue with these charitable bail fund programs is that they're posting bail for many times aggravated and serious offenders. And they just do it because they have the money to do it, and they on the basis that people shouldn't stay in jail pending trial. They should be released. Whenever we're underwriting a bond, we take into account the seriousness of offense, because if it's a serious offense, they're more likely to do serious jail time, which means they're just a greater flight risk. But anybody that's able to obtain release through a charitable bail fund, if they don't show up to court, charitable bail funds do not have the authority to apprehend that individual and bring them back to court. So all they really do, they're basically a get-out-of-jail-free card. So as the bail industry, all we really were doing with respect to the charitable bail organizations is that we want them to be regulated. We want to know.
No different than everybody else, right?
No different than us. If the Department of Insurance in most states can just come into our office at any time and see who we posted bonds for, check our records to see if we're doing everything correctly. Charitable bail funds are not regulated in any way. They are now in Indiana, they are in Texas, and they are to some extent in New York. And of course, they are here in Georgia. Matter of fact, they've almost been eliminated, which, of course, they took great umbrage to that, and they're trying to the charitable bail groups are trying to reverse that. But so it's basically you have individuals that are contributing money to these charitable bail funds, and then the charitable bail funds decide who they're going to post bail for. So really the person that's giving the money, they might say, well, wait a minute, I didn't know you were going to post bond for this person that's going around burglarizing homes or raping someone or maybe attempted murder or even a murder charge. I didn't realize that's where my money was going. I thought they were going through this misdemeanor, and the person charged with a misdemeanor that can't afford a $500 bond, not this individual, this aggravated offender who's there on a $75,000 bond. So we just need to make sure that they're regulated, and that's all. We don't even view them as competition, because a lot of times they're posting bail on people that didn't clear underwriting with the bonding company because they're just too great of a flight risk, and that's why they're sitting in jail. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Wow. Yeah. And do we – I guess the question is, do we deal with that a lot in Georgia?
Yeah, no, it exists in Georgia, and I've dealt with a lot of these charitable bail organizations. In some cases, we've had to stand in and help in some instances. So I'm not going to knock what they're doing in the sense of what they're trying to achieve, which is getting the person out of jail, right? I'm okay there. Where it's the middle part, like Mike was talking about, is the repercussions. They don't understand the process and kind of the negative effects on the back end, and knowing, hey, that's fine. So we're gonna help you, but who's gonna be responsible? And then it's like, oh well, wait. We don't really know this person. We don't want to be responsible. Mm-hmm. It's that those are the dangerous factors of the whole charitable bail situation, which most people don't even understand. Then you also have, in some instances, not all, I want to be clear on that, you have people that are also out committing crimes or that have been arrested that are actually piloting these initiatives, which is another issue in itself, which could be dangerous. So
sure. There's a lot of tentacles in this thing.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously the media, all you're going to hear is this charitable bail shut down, you know, the key points that they want you to hear, but there is a bigger conversation to it. And SB 63 was, you know, this was an initiative of the lieutenant governor here in Georgia, Burt Jones, and this was something that they were passionate about, and you know that got added to our bill. But look, I mean, there's a reason why, right? So I think really looking into it is what I would recommend. do your research, as we always say.
Final about 90 seconds of the show. Anything that we need to cover that we haven't?
No, I would just simply say, just in general, we are, common sense is making a comeback, I think, in large degree.
Let's go.
With the fact that you need to prosecute cases. If people are committing crimes, they need to be arrested for those and charged with those crimes, and then go through the system. And that you start holding people accountable, then the system can work. It's when you start giving them a pass.
Yeah,
that
right.
it just serves to amplify the problem. So I think as long as we continue to recognize the need for law enforcement and not defund our police, but really support and give them greater funding, because when you see a lack of police presence on the street, that's when things get bad. Because people are out there doing things they shouldn't be doing because there's not enough police presence.
Yeah.
And so I'm all for more funding of law enforcement.
Absolutely. I think, and Daniel, we've talked about it a bunch of times too, right? We need to hold our police officers to the highest of standards. Anybody with power over people should be held to the highest of standards.
For sure.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think we all agree on that. But then you have to then support the people that are doing the hardest work imaginable.
Right.
And realize that they are human. They do make mistakes. Now, if there's lots of mistakes, then let's make sure let's deal with it.
Deal with it, yeah.
But other than that, like it seems that only the officers and the folks in the police departments are held to a high standard, because we're talking about letting people go driving on suspended license.
Well, and
with
that's
no
the
insurance,
problem. I mean,
and there's no accountability.
Right. It was like the training center complex that we talked about, remember?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
It was like, okay, so you want better training, so then we give you the training complex. Well, now we don't want the
We
training
don't want that anymore. We've changed.
Actually, change our mind.
We've changed our mind is exactly right. Michael Whitlock, he is the Executive Vice President of the Bail Division and American Surety Company, and bringing some knowledge this morning. And I appreciate y'all carrying the show, because this was way above. I was in the deep end of the pool. Just if I didn't have floaties on, I'd be drowning.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. It's always a pleasure, Daniel. Always great to have you, and then bringing in Melinda, just bringing in great guests that can speak to the things that are happening in our neighborhoods. And people listening to this show right now, this is stuff that's happening in your neighborhood, and the fact that you've been able to hear it from, the point of view of the people that are doing it every day, the boots on the ground, and why it matters and why it's affecting you. And why you should care. Because oftentimes it's easy to be like, I don't care about that. Ain't nothing to do with me. I don't care about that. So bringing the attention to it, I think it's good, and I appreciate both of you for being here. This is Back Your Blue. My name is Tug on Extra 106.3.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.
My friends, well, you might say they're a little different. We know how to have a good time, sure, but together, what we get is beyond just that. Los Linderos is the tequila that fits, that works for those times we have. The times that take fun and friendship and go beyond. Give it a try. Los Linderos Tequila. I keep an eye out for that sculpted bottle. It's as beautiful on the outside as on the inside. Kinda like my friends. Los Linderos Tequila. When it's time to go beyond.
One of the best things that's happened here in Atlanta is the arrival of QC Kinetics. Their amazing regenerative medicine treatments have helped so many people with lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. It's Cellini here, and I'm one of those patients, and I know the demand for QC treatments is so strong that they are now opening another clinic, this one in Douglasville, while continuing treatment in Lawrenceville, Sandy Springs, Marietta, Decatur, and Stockbridge. They're a game-changer, QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, using a modern-day approach to deal with chronic joint pain. All natural, that's the process, using healing properties from your own body to restore and repair damaged tissue in your joints so you can get your life back. Be active again without that chronic pain and without surgery or drugs. You've been hearing about it. Stop putting it off. Do what I did. If you have arthritic pain or pain from an injury, do what so many others have already done. Call QC Kinetics. It's a free consultation. Call now, 770-285-8026, 770-285-8026. QC Kinetics. Be a part of the family today. 770-285-8026.
Hi, this is Brad Akins. By now you've heard about the tragedy at Appalachia High School. While the outpouring of support has been incredible, the needs of those affected by this event are overwhelming, and we need your help. The Bear Community Crisis Fund is leading the efforts to collect, manage, and distribute resources for the community's recovery initiatives. Join me and let's make a difference in the lives of those affected by the tragedy at Appalachia High School. Your donation, no matter the size, will help support those families in need. Please donate today at bearcommunityfoundation.org.